pretty amazing. Aloha. My name is Martina Queen, and I am a member of this congregation, and I want to welcome you all to First Unitarian Church of Honolulu. I am your worship associate this morning. And Richard Velasek, another member of our congregation, will be doing the service today. Our ailing music director, Dennis Grau, is doing much better. He's been moved out of ICU, and he is recuperating and ready for visitors. In his stead, we have the wonderful temporary fearless leader, Ms. Karen Velasek, who is leading the group Spirits, which is our musical team. One of the purposes of church is to reveal both our strengths and our weaknesses in a safe haven of community. As we form a connection with others, we are inspired to use our gifts and talents to act towards justice and equality as a Unitarian Universalist community. If you are, as Richard lights the chalice, would you please say with me the words to the chalice lighting? We light this chalice with the embers of compassion. We light this chalice with the torch of justice. We light this chalice with the radiance of joy.
I would like all of the children to come up front, and if you're not already here, Karen, could you help me with some of this?
Yeah, sure.
Really interesting research that's been done recently. Any other children want to come up here? It's okay. You're okay back there. We'll tell you why. Yeah. Now, let me. Could you step over here, Karen?
Yeah.
Yeah. You two over there.
Yeah. But Lulu, you can go.
Yeah, Lulu, come on over here. Come on, Lulu. Join these kids over here. You two stay there. Zappy, come on over here. Over here. Yeah.
Oh, and Anakin.
Yeah, come on. So, what this, look at this. Look at this large group of children over here. This says something really significant about our church and our community. These okay. These children of ours, most of them, are exceptionally intelligent, creative, energetic, thoughtful, well-behaved.
Now, these are
Some
blue
of
eyes, though.
they need some help.
Yeah.
They need a little extra looking after, a little extra hand. So I want you all to, look out for them and make sure they don't cause any problems.
Yes. Yeah, they're not as smart.
So I'll show you what we're talking about.
Today's audience was separated into two groups. Not on the color of their skin were they separated when they arrived. They were separated based on the color of their eyes. But they have no idea that they were separated. What we did was treat each group differently, discriminating against the people who have blue eyes, catering to those people with brown eyes.
Come on. What color are your eyes? Blue? Over there. Put it on. No. Over there. Blue? Over there.
The blue-eyed people were pulled out of line, told to put on a green collar and wait outside. When the brown-eyed people arrived, they were told to step to the front of the line. Our staff was instructed to be extra polite to brown-eyed people and to discriminate against blue-eyed people like this one.
I understand that, but actually my license got stolen. And when I went to replace it,
sorry, that's not our problem. You always have to have ours anywhere you go.
Audience members with brown eyes were allowed to enjoy coffee and donuts. Those with blue eyes were left standing in a crowded room without refreshments for over 2 hours. The blue-eyed group became upset when they saw the brown-eyed people were being seated first.
Look at those people went in. What are they doing in there?
So I just want to warn all of you who are watching, you know more than they know in the audience. Diversity expert Jane Elliott helped set up the experiment. She played along, telling our segregated audience that brown-eyed people were smarter than blue-eyed people.
I've been a teacher for 25 years in the public, private, and parochial schools in this country, and I have seen what brown-eyed people have done as compared to what blue-eyed people do. And it's perfectly obvious. And if I didn't believe it before this morning, you should have been here this morning when we brought these people in here.
Feeling discriminated against, the blue-eyed audience members were visibly upset.
She was rude to us, all of us. Yelled at us, called us names, pushed us aside. She was rude. This lady came out in the line with all of us people that had light-colored eyes and said, you put this green collar on now and keep it on, and if you don't, hit the road.
I want to say, why doesn't Jane have a green collar on? She's got blue eyes.
Because I've learned to act brown-eyed. I have a brown-eyed husband and 3 brown-eyed children.
Why did you?
And the message in this room is, act brown-eyed and you too can take off your collar. Act intelligently and you too won't lose your collar. None of you have acted intelligently yet.
It wasn't long before the brown-eyed people bought into the idea that they were superior.
You people, look, it is... People, I had a girlfriend in school who was blue-eyed. She was so stupid. She was always copying off of my papers. These people were so rude and so noisy today, we couldn't hear ourselves even talk. It was ridiculous.
Eventually, the audience figured out the show was really about race.
Now, he was so angry, he took off his collar way on early.
Yeah, we need to talk about that, taking off the collar. These people can take off their collars, and then nobody knows what color their eyes are from a distance. How many of you people of color can take off the collar that we have put on you? How many of you can take off your color? But if a black male refused to follow your orders, or your husband's orders, or your father's orders, on the street, you would not see that as being highly principled. You would see him as being an uppity nigger.
Well, we can see where this is going. She's saying that everybody has racism in them. It's not really about the eye. She's trying to teach about racism. But she can't get away from the fact that God created the races, and you are going to be different. You can't help it
God
to be like that.
one race, the human race, and human beings created racism.
Whoa, I love that.
So how'd you two feel over here? Not cool. Do you get it, though? Well, you know that. You have velvet eyes. Velvet eyes. So you've all probably heard various stories like about the Sneetches and so forth of how we make these things up, these differences, and then we just create the whole illusion of differences. So why don't you guys all go upstairs as we sing. What?
We've got a special song.
Yeah.
I think you guys get to help me with.
And talk about this amongst yourselves up there with your teachers. Kitchen.
Are you sure the blue-eyed people can...
Make sure they don't hurt themselves.
Excellent, yeah.
We have a new song. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land.
a bridge and you guys go out. Here we go. Come and go with me.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land where I'm
I hope I do all right with the opening words because I have squinty blue eyes.
We'll help you.
The Reverend King got his strength and inspiration from his Christian religion, from the Gospel, Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 through 14. You are my brothers and sisters, and you were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the sinful nature, for the whole law is summed up in a single commandment. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And from the prophet Jeremiah, woe to him who builds his house on wrongdoing, his roof chambers on injustice, who works his neighbors without pay and gives them no wages. Now,
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a deeply religious man. At the root of his effectiveness as a leader in social change was his faith in God and his Christian religion. So I have chosen today bits and pieces from a variety of sermons that he delivered through the years. This is from the Love Your Enemies sermon delivered at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama in 1957. So I want to turn your attention to this subject, loving your enemies. It is so basic to me because it is a part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation. The whole idea of love, the whole philosophy of love. In the 5th chapter of the Gospel, as recorded by St. Matthew, we read these very arresting words flowing from the lips of our Lord and Master. Ye have heard that it has been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. Now, one reason why you should love your enemies, and that is because hate distorts the personality of the hater. We usually think of what hate does for the individual hated, or the individual groups hated, but it is even more tragic. It is even more ruinous and injurious to the individual who hates. Just begin hating somebody, and you will begin to do rational things. You can't see straight when you hate. You can't walk straight when you hate. You can't stand upright. Your vision is distorted. There is nothing more tragic than to see an individual whose heart is filled with hate. He comes to the point that he becomes a pathological case. For the person who hates, you can stand up and see a person, and that person can be beautiful, and you can call them ugly. For the person who hates, the beautiful becomes ugly, the ugly becomes beautiful. For the person who hates, the good becomes bad, and the bad becomes good. For the person who hates, the true becomes false, and the false becomes true. That's what hate does. You can't see right. Hate destroys the very structure of the personality of the hater. Now, there's a final reason I think that Jesus says, love your enemies. It is this, that love has within it a redemptive power. There's a power there that eventually transforms individuals. That's why Jesus says, love your enemies. Because if you hate your enemies, you have no way to redeem and to transform your enemies. But if you love your enemies, you will discover that at the very root of love is the power of redemption. That's love, you see. It is redemptive. And this is why Jesus says love. There's something about love that builds up and is creative. There is something about hate that tears down and is destructive. So love your enemies. The words of the Reverend King, read in responsive reading. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. We must evolve for all human conflict a method that rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which to arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. A despair, a stone of hope.
Join us, please.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
James, the brother of Jesus, wrote, or it's attributed to him, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." The Reverend King began one of his sermons by quoting a parable from Luke. "Which of you has a friend who will go to him at midnight and say to him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves, for a friend of mine has arrived on a journey, and I have nothing to set before him?'" This parable may serve as a basis for our thought concerning many contemporary problems and the role of the church in grappling with them. It is midnight in the parable. It is also midnight in our world, and the darkness is so deep that we can hardly see which way to turn. While speaking of the laxity of the church, I must not overlook the fact that the so-called Negro church has also left men disappointed at midnight. I say so-called Negro church because ideally there can be no Negro or white church. It is to their everlasting shame that white Christians developed a system of racial segregation within the church and inflicted so many indignities upon its Negro worshipers that they had to organize their own churches. 2 types of Negro churches have failed to provide bread. One burns with emotionalism and the other freezes with classism. The former, reducing worship to entertainment, places more emphasis on volume than on content and confuses spirituality with muscularity. The danger in such a church is that its members may have more religion in their hands and feet than in their hearts and souls. At midnight, this type of church has neither the vitality nor the relevant gospel to feed the hungry souls. The other type of Negro church that feeds no midnight traveler has developed a class system and boasts of its dignity, its membership of professional people, and its exclusiveness. In such a church, the worship service is cold and meaningless, the music dull and uninspiring, and the sermons little more than a homily on current events. If the pastor says too much about Jesus Christ, the members feel that he is robbing the pulpit of dignity. If the choir sings a Negro spiritual, the members claim an affront to their class status. This type of church tragically fails to recognize that worship is, at its best, a social experience in which people from all levels of life come together to affirm their oneness and unity under God. At midnight, all people are altogether ignored because of their limited education, or they are given bread that has been hardened by the winter of morbid class consciousness. From another sermon, whatever we do, we must keep God in the forefront. Let us be Christian in all of our actions. But I want to tell you now that it is not enough for us to talk about love. Love is one of the pivotal points of the Christian faith. There is another side called justice. And justice is really love in calculation. Justice is love connecting that which revolts against love. The great problem facing modern man is that the means by which we live have outdistanced the spiritual ends for which we live. So we find ourselves caught up in a messed up world. The problem is with people themselves and their soul. We haven't learned how to be just and honest and kind and true and loving. The real problem is that through our scientific genius, we've made the world a neighborhood. But through our moral and spiritual genius, we've failed to make it a brotherhood. I would add a sisterhood. The trouble is not so much that we don't know enough, but it's as if we aren't good enough. The trouble isn't so much that our scientific genius lags behind, but our moral genius lags behind. The great problem facing modern man is that the means by which we live have outdistanced the spiritual ends for which we live. The great danger facing us today is not so much the atomic bomb that was created by physical science, not so much that atomic bomb that you can put in an airplane and drop on hundreds and thousands of people, as dangerous as that is. But the real danger confronting civilization today is that atomic bomb which lies in the heart and souls of all of us, capable of exploding into the vilest of hate and into the most damaging selfishness. That's the atomic bomb that we've got to fear today. My friends, all I'm trying to say is that if we are to go forward today, we've got to go back and rediscover some mighty precious values that we've left behind. That's the only way that we would be able to make of our world a better world. And to make of this world what God wants it to be, and the real purpose and meaning of it. The only way we can do that is to go back and rediscover some mighty precious values we've left behind.